I do many talks and seminars all around the world, but I realize that not all of you get to hear that. So I wanted to do a really quick lesson today on T2 because this is something that I teach about from stage, and I call it the forgotten thyroid hormone. The reason being is because it does get forgotten. It gets forgotten. How do you say that exactly, Patty? It is a forgotten thyroid hormone. And because it gets pushed to the side, we have medications that are T3 and T4. They're combined, they're separated, and that's what we focus on because that's what's prescribed in the medical community. And even with T3, I talk ad nauseum about the importance of T3 and how T4 only just will not work if you're a thyroid patient. But the beauty of T2 is that it can be used by anyone at any time. You do not have to be a thyroid patient or have hypothyroidism or Hashimoto's to use T2. T2 is 3,5-diodo-L-thymine, and it is a thyroid metabolite, but it works at the mitochondrial level. And this is important because this is why anyone can take it. Anyone with a weight problem, weight loss or resistance, you're doing all the things, it's not coming off. The weight keeps coming on. You're doing keto, you're going to the gym, you're hitting the gym twice a day. I get it. And nothing is happening. Or your energy is low. And this is very, very common with hypothyroidism, but let's face it, it's common in day-to-day people as well. We are at a beast society. We are on the struggle bus with real answers that aren't hundreds of dollars a month like the GLPs. We need something to come into the space. Well, we have it now that will help promote the burning of stored body fat and improve the obesity epidemic that we have. Now, you don't have to be obese to use this. I don't care if you have 5 or 10 pounds to lose, 20 pounds to lose, 40, 50, 100 pounds to lose. You can use T2 to increase your basal metabolic rate. So first of all, let's break it down. What is it? 3,5-diodo-L-thymine. That is essentially T2. And I'm actually going to use the PowerPoint that I use on stage. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you can follow along and actually see some things. Okay, so 3,5-diodo-L-thymine. It's an endogenous metabolite of thyroid hormones. It's biologically active. So if we take T3 and T4 and we break that down, we know that T4 is inactive and T3 is very, very active. And that's why I say, well, you can't just do T4 only. It's just not going to work whatsoever. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we want you to be on some kind of active thyroid hormone. And that is going to be either T3 or you're going to have to add in T2. Now, here's me with all of my skills in trying to share my screen when it comes to showing a PowerPoint. Okay, I think we're okay right now. So like I said, T2 has over 30 years of research. I have been researching it for 15 years. And in my research, I have also anecdotally used it, meaning I've given it to patients. And I've said, here, try this. And I've tried it myself because I wanted to see what the big deal was about T2 and does it actually work? So anecdotally, for the last 15 years, I have been using this on myself and with my patients, and it absolutely works, especially before we could prescribe to all 50 states. I was working with individuals that were just stuck on T4 only, and they were working with a doctor that, of course, didn't know the thyroid, wouldn't give him T3, give him a baby dose of T3. And if this sounds like you, listen up. I added T2 and their whole body changed. Body composition started to shift. They started losing fat. We protected their muscle. That's the beauty of T2 as well. We'll get into that. And they were able to live a life again. I mean, let's face it, it just flat out sucks when you have to count every calorie, every carbohydrate gram, every protein gram, every fat gram that goes into your body. And you're taking all these detailed calculations and you're using your chronometer and the weight still isn't coming off. and you're doing the detoxes and you're doing the gut healing protocols and the weight still isn't coming off. And you're going to the gym and you're doing CrossFit, you're doing body pump, you're doing hot yoga, trying to sweat the shit out of you, and it still isn't working. We need something in our arsenal that we can lean on where we can get back into living a normal life, where you can eat things in moderation. And yeah, I have sweet potato fries that are cooked in seed oil. I do. I am not 100% perfect, people. I am not. I am open about that because I don't want you to feel that pressure. And again, if you're 100% perfect, then let me bow down to you. I mean, more power to you. Absolutely. But I am not. I'm a human being and I like to eat. And 90% of the time, it is clean, it is seed oil free, it is grass fed, but you can't control everything. You cannot control your entire environment. And I am not going to sit at home and not do something, not go out with friends, not go to this restaurant, say no to everybody so I can stay in my little seed oil free bubble. It's not going to happen. I want to be social. I want to enjoy life. So, yes, I still have these little treats that would normally pack on the pounds, but with the power of T2, I have an improved metabolism and I'm good. So, T2's effect on the body, it reduces fat mass by increasing your resting metabolic rate. It promotes fat browning. We're going to go into that. It works at the mitochondrial level. It stimulates skeletal muscle, mitochondrial uncoupling. I'll tell you about that. It does not burn muscle, which is beautiful. And it acts as an exercise mimetic. So, first of all, burn fat while you're watching Netflix. Isn't that awesome, right? So the amount of fat that you burn at rest. So one study showed a 4% reduction in body fat over 28 days with the use of T2. Now, 4% sounds low, but it's really not when we're talking about percentage of body fat. That is huge. A 9-pound average weight drop in 30 days. 9 pounds in 30 days. Right now, 2 pounds isn't even imaginable to you. 9 pounds in 30 days is amazing. It stimulates energy expenditure, meaning calories, the calories that you want to burn, the calories that you're trying to burn as you're running your butt off on the treadmill. We're all looking at calories, calories, calories in, calories out. And whether you believe in calories in, calories out or not, calories do matter. They are a measure of our energy expenditure. So we do want to ultimately increase our burn, and T2 helps with that. Now, what's interesting is T2 increased resting metabolic rate within 1 hour. It reached a maximal effect at 30 hours. Why is this important? This means that it's going to work very, very quickly. The onset is within an hour. So within 1 hour of taking T2, your burn is up, your resting metabolic rate is up, and you're still running at a higher metabolic rate 30 hours later, which is huge because not even T3, the very, very powerful active thyroid hormone T3, not even T3 does that. 3,5-diethyl-L-thymine or T2. This is from a study. So if you're listening and not watching, I'm reading from a study. This is the title of the study. Increases resting metabolic rate and reduces body weight without undesirable side effects. Now, what do we mean by undesirable side effects? We mean the cardiovascular pump that you get from, remember the days of hydroxycut? Remember the days of taking fat-burning stimulants? If you're in your 40s and 50s, you'll jive with me. The days of taking fat-burning stimulants where literally you felt like your heart was going to explode. Not healthy whatsoever. But this does not cause undesirable side effects like cardiovascular jacking up of your heart and your heart rate. Now, the results of this particular study that I just showed, the interesting thing is that these were done on non-hypothyroid human subjects, euthyroid, meaning non-sick thyroid. This goes back to my original point that you can use this without having a thyroid problem. It doesn't matter if you're just Susie Q or Joe Schmo and you got some extra weight on you and you want to lose weight, you can use this because these non-hypothyroid human subjects saw a 4% reduction in body fat in 28 days with no change to their thyroid lab markers. And this is important because we don't want you to take something where your doctor is then going to go, oh my God, you're hyperthyroid. You need medication to suppress your thyroid. You're like, no, T2 won't do that. T2 will not do that. Now we'll get into a scenario and I'll tell you about my experience here with my bodybuilding days back in the day. I'm going to save this story. But let's just say that bodybuilders, competitors, will absolutely take T3 to burn body fat. But the problem is it absolutely affects their thyroid lab markers. It affects their thyroid and it puts them in a hypothyroid state when they don't have to be. And now they're relying on thyroid medication the rest of their life. And again, no undesirable side effects with T2 on non hypothyroid human subjects. It promotes fat browning. Why are we jumping in cold plunges? Because we want to brown our white, squishy adipose tissue, that white fat that we grab and we go, I don't want this on my body anymore. T2 promotes the browning of white adipose tissue, the squishy fat, in high fat, diet induced overweight male rats housed at thermoneutrality. What does this mean? Big, long study, right? What it means is when we overfed these rats, like we fed them the amount of fat. Okay, so y'all would have to eat. I did the math on this back when I did this presentation. Y'all would have to eat probably around 1,000 grams of fat. It would be a lot of fat, a lot of food. You have to be drinking a bottle of olive oil in order to get to the amount of fat that equivalent to what they fed the rats. So they really basically made the rats fat and overweight through a super high fat diet. And they still saw T2 worked. They still saw T2 come in and brown that white adipose tissue. When you brown white adipose tissue, you become more metabolically active. You become more insulin sensitive. You reduce your insulin resistance. It's basically all good when you brown that white adipose tissue. Now, this study showed that T2 activated the brown adipose tissue and thermogenesis, the burning of stored body fat in hypothyroid rats. So here we have these rats that have a low and slow thyroid function, which sucks, right? If you're there, you know it sucks. Everything is low and slow. You have no metabolism. You can't lose weight no matter what you do. And we use T2, and they still saw that these hypothyroid rats, which by the way, the hypothyroid rats were not optimized before given T2. So this even works if you are stuck on T4 only. And in fact, if you're stuck on T4 only, you desperately need T2, but it still worked. Now, T2 works at the mitochondrial level. Why is this important? Because it does not affect thyroid levels or cardiovascular function. If it's working at the mitochondrial level, it's going to stimulate ATP. This is where we see that nice steady energy through the day with T2, but it's also going to not impact your cardiovascular system, like I told you earlier about hydroxycut and the fat burners jacking up your heart. Not fun, not safe. Stimulates skeletal muscle, mitochondrial uncoupling. What is that? Basically, when we uncouple the mitochondria in the skeletal muscle, we increase energy expenditure, i.e., calorie burn. We induce thermogenesis, i.e., fat burning off your body. We increase glutathione content, which glutathione is the master antioxidant and detoxifier. And we reduce reactive oxygen species production, ROS, which causes inflammation and cell damage. So you get all kinds of good stuff when you uncouple these skeletal muscle mitochondria. Does not burn muscle. Now here comes my story. So we all want to look like badass humans when we are 60, 70, 80, don't care, right? 50s, 40s, it doesn't matter. We want to protect our muscle. Our muscle is our organ of longevity. And we want to protect that for lifespan, for health span, for appearance sake. Back in the bodybuilding days when I was competing, bodybuilders, I always joke, they are the OGs of biohacking. We did things on ourselves long before all y'all were experimenting. Peptides, bioregulators, SARMs, all the things. T2 is no different. I was listening to a trainer of the pros, like the pros of the pros of bodybuilding, fitness, and figure. And he was being interviewed and he said, I don't let my athletes use T3 I've seen too many athletes use T3. They burn the body fat. They burn their muscle too because T3 does not differentiate. It'll burn your body fat and muscle at the same time. And they come out the other side of the show with a thyroid problem. He goes, I have my athletes use T2 because it will not burn their muscle. Nice, right? It only burns body fat and it does not have an effect on the thyroid where you will come out the other side with a thyroid problem. You get to keep your muscle and not shut down your own thyroid. And that was straight up from the pros getting these individuals ready, if you can picture, to step on stage at the lowest percent body fat you can possibly be. You want to see thin skin, striated muscles, definition like crazy. And the picture that I'm showing right now, if you're watching on YouTube, they look damn good, but they're not even as lean as you would be on stage. So this professional trainer is using T2 to get his athletes in the lowest percent body fat they possibly can be to step on stage in a bikini, which, you're going to want to be low percent body fat to be judged on stage in a bikini. Kind of sounds crazy when I say it out loud, but I was there. I did it. I was a little bit crazy. And it acts as an exercise mimetic. Yeah, you still have to lift heavy shit. You can't just take T2 and do nothing. But if you take T2 and you exercise, you get double bonuses. So here's the thing. Exercise, what do we know about it? It improves insulin sensitivity. It lowers leptin. It lowers body fat. It induces thermogenesis, the burning of your stored body fat. It improves cholesterol. It reduces fatty liver. And it increases energy expenditure, i.e. calories. Guess what? T2 does the same thing. All of it. T2 improves your insulin sensitivity. It lowers your leptin. It lowers body fat. It induces thermogenesis, like we talked about. It improves your cholesterol panel. It reduces fatty liver disease. And it increases energy expenditure, i.e. calories. Now, the bonus points for T2, it's available over the counter, so you don't have to beg your doctor for a script like you do with T3. This is why I put it in Thyroid Fixxr and Metabolism Fixxr. Number one, Thyroid Fixxr is in pill form. Thyroid Fixxr also has L-tyrosine, which is beautiful, beautiful for your thyroid and for stimulating the production of T3 and T4 at your thyroid level. It contains coleus for scoli, which also increases thermogenesis, beautiful for fat burning. The big difference between Thyroid Fixxr and Metabolism Fixxr is, number one, thyroid is in pill form. Metabolism Fixxr is in a powder that tastes like Tang. I love it. Get the orange. You'll love it. And it also contains Suppressa. Metabolism Fixxr contains Suppressa. So if you're having food noise, if you're struggling in that arena with cravings and you can't control your appetite, Suppressa will reduce appetite by 69%. Still contains T2. Now, the level of T2 that you want to use between 150 and 300 micrograms, because that was what was used in the studies on humans where we saw that 4% reduction in body fat, where we saw the 9-pound average weight loss in 28 days. They used between 150 and 300 micrograms. So if you wanted to use one serving of Thyroid Fixxr and one serving of Metabolism Fixxr, you could. If you wanted to just do one serving per day on each of those, like one serving of Thyroid Fixxr is 150 micrograms. One serving of Metabolism Fixxr is 150 micrograms of T2. So you can use one, you can use the other, you can combine them. Remember, it's not going to change your thyroid lab values. There's no cardiovascular effect, and anyone can take it. Anyone. You don't have to have a thyroid problem. Anyone can take it who wants to lose weight and increase energy. Now, when I first, so my baby supplement, the first one that came out was Thyroid Fixxr, because I've been studying this for 15 years. So this has been out. Thyroid Fixxr has been out for about 3 years now. Metabolism Fixxr came along about a year ago. And what we are hearing from people, I can't go without my T2. I keep 3 bottles in stock at all time because it helps me keep my weight stable, even if I'm having an off eating day, which we all should have off eating days because you got to live life. Another review, Amanda said, within the first couple of weeks of using Thyroid Fixxr with T2, I noticed a difference in the way my clothes fit. Lisa said, fighting with doctors prescribed T3 has been the most frustrating part of this journey. But since I was able to implement some of the T2 hormone and Thyroid Fixxr, my thyroid symptoms have diminished. Now, Lisa had thyroid problems. Not everybody does, and that's okay. Kathy, thank you. This new energy is wild. I've only been taking Thyroid Fixxr T2 for just over a week and legit cannot believe what a difference it's made in such a short amount of time. I'm so hooked. I got to have this long term. And then if you're watching on YouTube, we have some before and after pictures too, differences in body composition, differences in face. So oftentimes when you are struggling with weight and struggling with thyroid problems, you will also see your face get a little bit wider. We'll get the moon-shaped face, the myxedema of the face, and Thyroid Fixxr will help with that. T2 will help with that. So whether you do Thyroid Fixxr or Metabolism Fixxr, we have you covered. But that is the general overview of the power of T2 and why you should be adding it into your supplemental regimen if you are struggling with weight. Doesn't matter whether you have a thyroid problem or not, and you're struggling with energy, that is where T2 can come in and save the day. A lot lower price than GLPs that are everywhere right now, right? $600-700 a month for GLPs. Use T2. It will change your life. It will change your body.